Hello and welcome to the third video in this series. In this video, we're going to show you the right time to use the pattern so you get them to be the most effective they can be. Make sure you've watched the other two previous videos in this series so you understand the things we're talking about in this video because they build upon one another. I want you to take a second and think about it. Think about the times when you've played a match and you've hit this horrible shot, but you win the point because you hit it in the right place and the right time. It's kind of funny that it happens to all of us. And then think about the times when you hit the perfect shot with the perfect technique and your opponent's sitting there waiting for it and it's not effective. This is a case of not knowing when and where to hit the shot.
Now the question you should be asking yourself is, how do you know the right place and the right time to use one of these new shot patterns that you just learned? First, let's talk about the right time. I think you got to pay attention to two factors when you think about running a play. So first think, what were you doing the previous point, right? What shot patterns were you using? Because your opponent is trying to predict, trying to figure out what plays you're going to run so they can limit the amount of points that you're going to win off that play.
The second factor that I think is so important is momentum. And I think of momentum as how much confidence the player has. Now, what momentum does to a player is it usually has them play slightly above their normal level. So you can imagine when someone has a lot of momentum, a lot of confidence when they're playing, they tend to come up with shots that seem out of their normal level. Just in opposite, when a player doesn't have a lot of momentum, a lot of confidence, they play slightly below their level. If you understand these two factors, then you're ahead of the game. Let me give you an example. Let's say you're playing your opponent and they've been hurting you repeatedly over and over with their forehand. Now, this causes them to think about you in a different way. Now, if you know this, you can take advantage of this. This is where you might want to use a strong side attack. Because they've been attacking you over and over with their forehand, they're not going to expect you to actually go to the side that they've been beating you on. This is the opportunity when you want to use the strong side attack. Understanding these factors will allow you to make better choices in the patterns you use.
Now, after you run that pattern, your opponent's going to mentally have their guard up, which is going to give you more court to work with, which allows you to go back to that weak side hammer. The second factor we talked about is where to hit or place the ball. This can be broken down into two main factors. The first is court positioning, and the second one is the amount of risk that you're willing to take on a certain shot or play. Now, court positioning simply means how I position myself to be able to get to the next ball or run a play. So, for example, if I'm forced to run off the court and maybe I got a forehand and I go down the line, well, if I don't hit a winner and my opponent just gets there and can get to that ball before I can recover, they can win the point with just a nice, simple cross-court shot. So that's a big risk I'd be taking. Ordinarily, it's probably better to just play the ball with more spin cross-court so I can get back in position to continue to play the point. Now, when it comes to risk, the key is to know how much you're going to take and the right time to take it. For example, let's say the score is 30-all in a game, but you're up 4-1. Well, you can afford to take more risks then and maybe go for a bigger shot, keep the offense going, keep your confidence going. But now let's say you're down 3-4, 30-all. Well, it's probably better to play a solid, consistent point. When it comes to taking risks, you want to think about it like fire, right? A little bit of fire will keep you warm, but if you do too much of it, well, you might get burned.
So finally, you will need to understand how to use all these patterns. So the first thing you want to do is evaluate with yourself what patterns are more risky for you and what patterns are least risky for you. Personally, I know for me, an inside-out pattern is not as risky as me going inside-in. Since I know this, it gives me the opportunity to choose something that's high percentage for me. The second thing you want to do is take a mental note of if these patterns are working for you. So you can do this before the match, and then as you go through the match, you're going to take a little mental note, or you can either write it down through every other changeover. Are these patterns working? Which patterns are more effective? Patterns are going to only be effective as much as you can pit your strength against your opponent's weakness and keep that matchup going over and over again. Third, you want to check and see if the pattern's getting stale. What I mean by if the pattern's getting stale is your opponent anticipating the pattern before you run it? If you find this happening, this is the time where you want to throw a change up. This is when you want to go away from one of the patterns you've been using consistently and go to a different pattern. I usually put patterns in 3 different categories. My normal patterns, like an inside out, where I might serve to, on the ad side, I serve out wide to their backhand and then just keep hammering it. Then you have your change up patterns. This is when I might serve out wide and then follow it to net with a volley. Something to throw in as a switch, is something different that I haven't done. And finally, I have my big point patterns. An example of this might be serving out wide to their strength and then going inside out to their weakness. The reason I might use this on a big point is because I'm opening the court up to their weakness and I'm making them move, which adds an added level of difficulty for them to come up with a shot. Remember, the last thing you always want to keep in mind is that all these patterns are based on matchups. How can you use a matchup of your strength to your opponent's weakness?
Hey, I hope you guys enjoyed that video series on all the different strategies and patterns that Kevin and I put together for you. Now we've got something really exciting for you that we want you to check out. We put our heads together, Kevin and I put our heads together and we go, what is the one style play that drives almost everybody bonkers? And that is the challenge of beating a pusher, right? Everybody faces them at some point in their career and it can just drive you absolutely mad. So what we've done is we put together a special audio course that you can listen to, that we really put a lot of thought in this, and we take you step by step on how to dissect a pusher, their gameplay, and how you want to go through in your mindset when you're out there playing them, the different strategies you want to have, the different shots you need to master to truly just take these people out and put them in their place, right? Because once we do that, that's such a relief to get through those matches. And you know, it's something that everybody's got to learn how to master so that you can move to the next level. So all you got to do is click the link here and you can get access to that course, and I think you're going to love it. We can't wait for your feedback. We're super excited about it, and I know it's good stuff, and I am absolutely sure that it is going to help you get your game to another level, and so you can go on to more challenging things on the court.